you've been taking the courses of this program in order, you'll remember exploring research and usability studies in an earlier course. Since it's been a while, I thought it might be helpful to go through a quick summary of how to write a UX research plan before you start your next usability study. If this is the first course of the program that you've taken, you might want to go back and review the videos and complete the activities on conducting a usability study before you move forward. Or even if you just want a little refresher, all the videos that will be most helpful to you are linked in the course reading. Okay, let's get to it. We're ready to review the first step in a UX research study, planning the study. As a reminder, a research plan is a step-by-step examination of a group of users and their needs. A UX research plan is made up of 7 elements: the project background, the research goals, the detailed research questions, the key performance indicators or KPIs, the methodology, the participants, and the script for the questions you'll ask study participants. Let's break those down. The project background summarizes the situation that led to the need for this research. It's basically a brief explanation about why you're doing the research, which you can give to anyone who asks. Your goal when creating the project background is to try and answer the question, what led you to conduct this research? Next, the research goals lay out what you're trying to solve with this design or what you'd like the outcomes of the research to be. The goals of your research will differ from project to project. They'll fit into one of 3 categories depending on when during the product lifecycle you conduct the research. Your research goals should answer the question, how will the results of the research impact our design decisions? After that, you'll write detailed research questions for your project. These are the questions you plan to answer during the study. The research questions should be actionable and specific, and you should avoid leading questions. But keep in mind that these should not be the literal questions you plan to ask study participants. Instead, the goal is to figure out what questions you need the study to answer. Next, determine your key performance indicators, or KPIs, which are the critical measures of progress toward an end goal. In a UX research study, you might consider KPIs like the amount of time a user spends on a task, users' use of navigation functionality versus search functionality, user error rates, drop-off rates, and conversion rates, and the system usability scale. That's a questionnaire to measure the usability of your designs. When determining KPIs for your research study, consider the question, what would indicate that we're making progress toward our ultimate goal? Next up is the methodology, where you'll outline the steps you plan to take to conduct your research, including how you'll collect and analyze data. Then, determine who your study participants will be. Who do you need to be involved in the research to ensure you're studying the right metrics? Finally, you'll need to write a script for your study. This is also known as the discussion guide. You'll need to determine what questions you want to ask participants during your research. And there you have it, the 7 elements of a UX research plan. Hopefully that brief overview refreshed your memory on how to plan a UX research study. If you need more guidance, check out the course readings and revisit the videos from the earlier course. Let's keep going. Earlier, we explored how to plan a study, which is the first of 4 steps in the UX research study process. Now it's time to review the second step, conducting research. As a reminder, if you'd like a more in-depth introduction to these concepts, check out the course readings to find the original videos on conducting a usability study. Okay, let's get started. A usability study is a research method that assesses how easy it is for participants to complete core tasks in a product. During a usability study, researchers observe the participants to understand how they interact with the prototype of the product and complete tasks. Then, UX designers use the insights from the study to make improvements to their designs. There are 2 types of usability studies, moderated and unmoderated. In moderated usability studies, a person guides participants through the study in real time. The person who guides participants through the study is known as the moderator. The moderator's goal is to assign participants different tasks to complete within the product and watch participants interact with the product. Plus, they collect their feedback along the way. Moderated studies allow the moderator to ask specific questions, follow up in real time, and build a rapport with participants. On the other hand, in unmoderated usability studies, the participants test out the prototypes without a moderator present. Usually, the study is recorded on video, and the UX team reviews the video footage after the study. Since participants complete tasks on their own time and in their own space, it can be easier to get accurate feedback. Plus, they might feel more comfortable being honest when there isn't a moderator in the room. In this program, we've already conducted a usability study on our low-fidelity prototypes. Coming up, we'll do another usability study on our high-fidelity prototypes. So why conduct multiple usability studies? Because your product looks and functions differently at every stage. You can conduct as many usability studies as you need to make changes to your design and improve the user experience. And you can conduct usability studies at any point in the design process. Keep in mind that the later in the process you conduct a usability study, the more expensive it is to make changes because your design is farther along in the design process and more complex. One more thing. Determining the size of your study depends on the project, but around 5 participants is a good start. It's a large enough sample size to gather real data, but it's not so large that the study costs a lot of money or takes a long time. If you'd like to watch a usability study in action, check out the videos from the earlier course that are linked in the reading for this lesson. And that's it for the second step of a UX research study, conducting the research. It's time to review the next step. Synthesize the research results. We're making our way through the steps in a UX research study. So far, we've covered the first 2 steps: plan the study and conduct the research. Now, it's time to move to step 3 of a UX research study: analyze and synthesize the data you gathered during your usability study. Let's start our review. Now that you've carefully planned your UX research study and conducted the research with participants, you're ready to turn your observations from the research into actionable insights. Remember, an insight is an observation that helps you understand the user or their needs from a new perspective. Insights help explain what data means and what to do with it. In just 4 steps, we can turn the observations from our research into actionable insights. First, we gather all of the data from our usability study in one place. This includes every note and scribble you and the other observers took during the study. Second, we organize the data. How you organize it is up to you. 2 methods we explored were affinity diagramming and spreadsheet note-taking. Whatever method you choose, be consistent throughout the study. Third, we find themes in the data. One of the key goals of user research is to identify themes, or patterns, that are common across participants. Once you recognize the themes, it's easier to turn the feedback into something actionable. And finally, we create a list of insights based on the themes. Strong insights are grounded in real data and answer the research questions that were laid out in your plan. Insights should be easy to understand and increase empathy for the user experience. And the best insights inspire direct action and help the design team improve the product. Now that you have a list of insights from your usability study, you're ready to make improvements to your design. That's what we'll cover in the next video: iterating on your high-fidelity designs. Now that we've built our high-fidelity prototype and conducted another usability study, I'll show you how to make updates to your designs in Figma based on feedback from participants. Although iterating on a prototype is a possibility and reality for many teams, it's time and cost intensive. So as UX designers, we try to fix problems in our static mockups instead. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to make changes to mockups and the prototype using the Dog Walker app as an example. Our latest usability study had participants review the high-fidelity prototype of our Dog Walker app, and a couple of insights were uncovered about the usability of the app. I've chosen to address 2 of those insights, as they are critical to improving the user experience. The first insight that came out of our research was that participants were unable to easily select a date from a calendar. The second insight was that participants did not know the price per dog walker until the end of the scheduling flow. Okay, it's time to start making updates to my mockups in Figma. Let me pull them up on my computer now. I'll start by updating the date selection screen. Remember back when we did the first usability study? Users said that the open field to type the date and time was too difficult to use. To fix that problem, I added a new date picker in the form of a scrolling wheel. In the latest usability study on the high-fidelity prototype, users still weren't happy with the scheduling functionality. They found the wheel easier to use, but when they wanted to schedule far in the future, they were only given the month and date to choose from. There was no day option. So if a participant only wanted to schedule a dog walker on Mondays, they had to open a separate calendar to find the date that corresponds to each day of the week. To make the scheduling more user-friendly, I can add a calendar pop-up to the scheduling page instead. That way, when users choose a day for their dog to be walked, they can get all the information they need at the same time. So how do I make this happen in Figma? First, I'll make a copy of the scheduling pages to act as our new version. I'm going to place them below the current version so I can easily keep track of where they go in the user flow. In the screen on the left, which is screen 2 of the user flow, I'm going to remove the wheel with the day, time, and duration options. I'll replace that wheel with drop-down menus. I'm going to use a drop-down here so when the user taps the day field, a calendar pops up. I'm going to go back to my sticker sheet and copy the drop-down with less rounded corners for this. I created these earlier, but building them is fairly simple. There's a rectangle with a rounded edge, a text label, and a down arrow icon to indicate movement. The down arrow icon came from the material design library. Then, I'll paste the dropdown over here on my new screen, where I deleted the wheel. I need to update the text to say day. I also need to increase the width of the dropdown to fill most of the width of the screen. Now, when this button is clicked, the calendar will appear. I'll build the screen for that in a minute. I also need to create menus for the time and duration, so I'll make 2 more copies of this menu component. These time and duration dropdowns will be side by side and will each take up half of the width of the day dropdown. In order for these 2 dropdowns to fit into the design, I need to move other components lower on the page, like the recurring booking checkbox and list of dogs that need to go for a walk. Great! Screen 2 has now been updated. Next, let's figure out how to update screen 3 of our mockups. When a user presses the day button, the menu will expand and the calendar will be shown. Building out a calendar function in Figma can be pretty complicated. To create a calendar from scratch, I would need to draw the shapes, add all the numbers, and label the months and days for every month of the year. So this is the perfect opportunity to lean on a design system or the UX design community. Remember in an earlier video how I mentioned there are many ways to use design systems? Instead of drawing a calendar from scratch, I can insert a pre-made calendar that a big brand or another designer has already created. Using a pre-made component like this will save a lot of time. Thankfully, Figma has a community where you can explore other users' files and borrow components to reuse in your designs if they've made them publicly available. I'm going to navigate to figma.com/community. I made it. Now, I'll search for calendar templates. I like this one from Felipe, so I'm going to duplicate it. I'll paste the calendar from Felipe into the new screen, where the wheel was. But we're not done yet. This calendar is functional, but doesn't fit the design needs of the dog walker app. I need to change the colors, font, alignment, and spacing to make it perfect. This takes time, but it's worth the effort to make the calendar fully customized. And ta-da! Here's the finished calendar that I updated to match the style of the dog walker app. Next, I need to move the other dropdowns underneath. When the day menu expands, the rest of the page under it will automatically be pushed down. Let's check out how this works in a prototype. I've already set it up for you, so let me switch over there. So, let's test it out. Perfect. It's working as intended. Okay, I've addressed the first insight that came out of the usability study. Participants were unable to easily select a date from a calendar. The Dog Walker app now has a full calendar that users can select a date from. It's time to update my designs based on the second insight that came out of our research. Participants did not know the price per dog walker until the end of the scheduling flow. I'll start by making this update on the homepage of the app. Like I did earlier, I'm going to make a copy of the homepage for this new iteration. Then, I'll add prices. I'm going to add the price that each dog walker charges to the line of information with the star rating and distance, since these all seem like equally important pieces of information for comparing dog walkers. To do this, I'll highlight the distance text and icon and copy and paste. Then, I'll drag my new text box and icon to the right until the spacing is even between the star rating, distance, and price. We already determined the price for Sarah to walk a dog for 30 minutes is $10, so we should assume her hourly rate is twice that, or $20. I'll update the text box here. Now I need an icon. The easiest way to find icons is to use an existing design library like Material, then edit it to fit the style of your designs. So that's what I'll do now. I'll find a dollar icon from Material and paste it. Now I'll change the color so it matches the rest of my designs. Perfect. Now I'll copy the amount and icon to each of the other dog walkers on the page. And I'll edit the numbers so they're all charging different amounts in the same price range. Great. As soon as the user opens the app, they will be able to compare the price that each dog walker charges. I'll need to make the same updates to add pricing information on other pages of the Dog Walker app too, including the Browse page and the Dog Walker profile pages. For the sake of time, I won't demo this process again, but I'd repeat the same steps. Now that we've updated the mocks for certain pages of our app, we need to remove the pages we no longer want. I'm going to take the old versions of the pages and move them off my workspace. And I'll move my new mockups into the user flow. Let's test the whole prototype one more time. The user would enter the app on the homepage and click the Book Appointment button. Then, they'd move through the Book Appointment screens using our new calendar dropdown to select a date. As they continue through the rest of the user flow, there is increased transparency with the new pricing icons and text. Great! I now have a new and improved prototype. I made changes to my prototype based on feedback from the latest usability study. As a UX designer, you'll continually iterate to improve your work. You might be wondering, now what? Are we done? Do we have to do another usability study or a presentation to stakeholders? Great questions. I'll answer those coming up. But first, get to work on your own project. Make changes to your designs based on feedback you received during your usability study. Once you've built your prototype, tested your design, asked for a critique, implemented feedback, and iterated on your prototype, you might be wondering, how do I know when my design is actually finished? At some point, you'll have to stop making changes to your design and send it on to the engineering team to build. But finalizing your designs is a big decision. How do you know when you're ready? In this video, you'll learn when it's time to stop iterating on your designs and hand off your work for production. You might be tempted to call the iteration complete when your team runs out of certain resources, like time or money. Although resources are important to consider, time and money shouldn't be the deciding factor when it comes to making your designs the best they can be. There are 3 questions you can consider to determine if your designs are final. Ask yourself, are the designs a true representation of the intended user experience? Have placeholder text, icons, and imagery been replaced with finalized assets? And are participants or users able to interact with and interpret the designs without external guidance? If your team can answer these 3 questions with a resounding yes, then you've done it. You've finalized your designs, and it's time to hand off the designs to engineering for production. We'll discuss the logistics involved in the handoff process soon. For new designers especially, it can be scary to stop making changes and send your product out into the world. You could work endlessly on designs and still worry that your designs aren't providing value to users. But fear not. Most product designs require updates even after they've launched. Updates might happen a few weeks after your launch, or months in the future, depending on the size of the update and its importance. So even after a product is out in the world, it's never really done. The more experience you gain in UX design, the more comfortable you'll be making the decision to stop iterating. Coming up, you'll learn how to collaborate with engineers to hand off your designs in Figma. You've just finished your first high-fidelity prototype. Congratulations, it's a huge accomplishment. Now comes the part where you share your designs with others, one of the most important parts of your work. In the real world, that would mean handing off your designs to developers and engineers. Basically, you provide all the mockups, prototypes, specs, and the design system, and the engineering team starts the coding process. As a student in this program, you don't have an engineering team at the ready, so there won't be anyone to produce your design. But you do need to share what you've learned with others. In this case, it's hiring managers and recruiters. That's right. It's time to update your portfolio by building your first case study. Coming up, I'm going to take you through both processes. Either way, you'll be showing off your work, so get ready. You've just finished your first high-fidelity prototype. Luckily for you, most of the specs engineers will need are already included as part of your designs in Figma. Keep in mind, you may need to document and share a few additional specs on edge cases and accessibility considerations. The handoff process you'll follow depends on your company's size and type, so we'll go over a few common scenarios. At a design agency or small business, the handoff process might be similar to a relay race. If you're not familiar, a relay race is a type of running race that involves a team. One person sprints a section of the race, then passes a baton to the next person, who then starts running their section of the race. Similarly, in this method of design production, UX designers finalize every aspect of their designs before handing them off to the next team, which is engineering. At that point, the UX designers are no longer intensely involved in the project, so they can move on to something new. Alternatively, at larger companies like Google, the design team and the engineers often work closely together throughout the development process. The designs might be mostly done, but still need some tweaks when they're handed off to the engineers. In a more collaborative environment, the engineers might be able to start working on one aspect of the design, like the user profile page or the shopping cart feature, while the designers continue working on something unrelated, like the homepage or a navigation bar. Keep in mind, working simultaneously can make a project move more quickly, but might create a need to redo something twice. All in all, there's no right way to hand off designs to production, but there are plenty of options your team can try. As an entry-level UX designer, you won't be responsible for deciding how the handoff process works, but you will be involved. So it's important to build strong relationships with members of your cross-functional team to help the handoff process go smoothly. The technical logistics of the design handoff process matter too. Coming up, you'll get to experience this process in more detail through a video provided by Figma. They'll demonstrate how to collaborate in Figma so each team member has the right information in place to move forward with their task. This will be a really useful tool for you in the future. Because of all the hard work you've put in throughout this program, you now have 2 designs that you can showcase in your portfolio. You'll create a case study to show off each of these projects. A case study is a summarized presentation of a design project that typically includes the project goal and objectives, your role in the project, the process your team followed, and the outcome of the project. You might be wondering, why are case studies so important? Case studies are a visible demonstration of your design knowledge, your willingness to collaborate with the team, and your ability to see an idea through from start to finish, despite challenges. When a recruiter or hiring manager is considering you for a job, they'll want to find case studies within your portfolio. Each design project you complete will have its own case study. case studies should be presented in a concise and engaging way. Your case study needs to tell recruiters exactly what they need to know as quickly and efficiently as possible. Your case studies need to be visually appealing and easy to skim. Let's explore a real case study that was created by Josh, an interaction designer here at Google. You'll notice that Josh's portfolio features several case studies. Let's check this one out. In this project, Josh and 2 others designed an app called Mech Market that allows you to buy, sell, or share mechanical keyboard parts and products. First, Josh included a project title and a hero image. A hero image is a large banner at the top of a website. It really catches your attention and provides a glimpse into the type of product that's being presented. Plus, it's a great spot to really flex any visual design skills you have. Next, and this is important, Josh included his role on the project. He was in charge of conducting the research and led the team on creating visuals. For this certificate program, you've been working on all aspects of the design process. It's great to call that out in your own case study. In your future job, you might work on a cross-functional team where every person has a task to accomplish. If that's the case, be sure to explain your specific role within the project as part of your case study. Next, Josh summarized the Mech Market project. He clearly listed the problems this project addressed in a numbered format at the top of the case study. He chose to label this section Challenges. When you build this part of your own case study, ask yourself, what was the goal or vision from my project? And what was the problem my design addressed? Placing the list of user problems that your design addressed at the start of your case study gives the reader more context. Then, Josh described all of the research he conducted. Pro tip: you can't include all the details of your research in a case study. The goal is to display key insights from your research activities, instead of presenting the artifacts like a checklist you completed. As a hiring manager, it's more important for me to know that you gained insights from your research than it is to show you can make an affinity diagram. So let's check out what Josh did to describe his research. Josh starts by listing the research questions his project explored. Next, Josh included some information about the research he conducted, like a photo of his affinity diagram and insights from that research activity. He also included a few personas, which he named Jake, Blair, and Wayne. The final piece of research that Josh included was a summary of the findings from his competitive analysis. Next, Josh included a simple overview of the app's information architecture. Okay, you might be noticing that Josh's case study follows the order of the design process that we've also followed in this certificate program. He started with research, which helped him empathize with users and define the problem, which are the first 2 steps of the design process. Now, he transitions to the 3rd and 4th steps of the design process, ideate and prototype. Check this out. Here, Josh included a photograph of some of his paper wireframes. Remember, you don't want to overwhelm readers by showing a bunch of messy sketches and wireframes. Instead, you want to show recruiters that you followed the proper steps with clear images of your work like this. Does this next image look familiar? Here, Josh showed his low-fidelity prototypes. These might look similar to the low-fidelity prototypes you created earlier in the program. Then, Josh discussed how his team iterated on their designs based on feedback from a usability study. In your portfolio case study, be sure to include insights from the usability studies you've conducted too. To bring his work full circle, Josh described how his product's design addresses each of the 4 problems or challenges that he listed in a numbered format at the start of the case study. After that, Josh included his style guide, which we've called the sticker sheet. You just created a sticker sheet in this course, so you can now see where that fits into the case study. Josh included images of his final designs, like these. Notice that he has a carousel to show multiple images of the designs. In your case studies, you can include images of your final mockups or GIFs of your final prototypes for the projects you're creating as part of the certificate program. Last but not least, Josh added a short written description about his key takeaways from the project. This is a great way for you to wrap up your case studies as well. When you do design projects with real clients, You might also include data like the number of downloads or signups your app has in the takeaways section. Make sure you describe all that you've learned during the design process. You want to show that you can reflect on your work and analyze it critically. Maybe something surprised you about where the project ended up, or you have a list of things you do differently next time. These are all valuable insights to share. One more pro tip. If you want to share lots of details about your project, you can use a button that links to another resource, like a slide deck, PDF, or another page on the website. In Josh's case study, he links to his project's process deck at the top and bottom of the case study. The main thing to keep in mind when creating your case study is that you want to tell a cohesive story. One way to tell a story is to follow the 5 steps of the design process. Overall, the goal of your case study is to tell the story of how you improved the user's experience through your design. When you have a strong draft of a case study in your portfolio, share it with a few friends and family members, or in an online UX design community to get feedback. Think of this as a crit session for your portfolio. And that's it. You know what a case study in a UX design portfolio needs to include. Now it's your turn to add case studies to your portfolio to showcase your work. Have fun!
Congratulations on finishing this course from the Google UX Design Certificate. You can access the full experience, including job search help, and start to earn your certificate by clicking on the icon or the link in the description below. Watch the next video in the course by clicking here, and subscribe to our channel for more from upcoming Google Career Certificates.